How's it going?
Good morning. Hello. I just have a really brief announcement. We're still waiting for our guest of honor. And so we'll get started as soon as they arrive. We do have some refreshments over here. If you need a restroom, you can walk out of these doors, take a right, and it's going to be the first hall on the left. And so continue socializing, connecting, and getting to know each other, and then we'll start as soon as they arrive, okay? everyone's here, and so we should go around and let everybody know who you are so that we can continue to make connections. I am Micah, your Underdirector of Wellness Promotion here at University of Alabama at Birmingham. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to be hosting this event. I've been here for about 3.5 years, and I was just talking with colleagues at Stanford who I just met about how all of this work with me so often kind of put our heads down and just work, but we aren't always connected with each other because this is a phenomenal opportunity to hear what opportunities are out there for our campuses, but also to make connections where maybe we can keep working together on this work that really takes more than a village. It takes a nation to come together and to do this hard work and this important work. So I'd love for us to go around with a microphone. We can just pass it around if you want to introduce yourself, let us know your role, and then we'll go through and meet each other.
So my name is Rebecca Kennedy. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Health and Wellbeing here at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I'm a licensed psychologist and sort of oversee some of the student services that we have here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Crystal Reed. I serve as teaching students at Northwest Shoals Community College in Russell Shoals. And I'm Jessie Harrison. I'm the manager of grants development for Northwest Shoals Community College.
I'm Kate Andrew, and I'm the telephone coordinator at the University of Alabama.
Good morning. My name is Angie Hamilton. I'm the Chief Assistant District Attorney in Lauderdale County, Alabama, and one of the founding board members of our County Justice Center, one place is the Shoals in Florence. So apparently this table is the Lauderdale County and the Shoals table. So
Good morning, I'm Donna Beck. I'm the Executive Director of One Place Shows in Florence.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm the Executive Director of Office of Equal Opportunity and Talent at the University of Alabama. I'm originally from Rogersville, so I can join your Lauderdale.
Good morning, I'm Alan Matheson, Executive Director of the One Place County Justice Center in the capital of Alabama.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jaleesa Alabama, and I'm the Rural Community Outreach Coordinator for One Place County Justice Center in Montgomery.
Good morning. I am Chief Janice Blackwell of Miles College.
Good morning, Chief Carl Longmire from Stillman College. There you go, they're all here. Thank you. Good morning, I'm Betty Mullen, Dean of Students and Talent Coordinator at Stillman College.
Good morning, I'm Ron Clark. I'm a co-founder of the Negative Memory Foundation. We founded in memory of our daughter, and I'm the treasurer of the board.
Good morning, I'm Suzanne Montgomery Clark, mother of Megan and Meredith, and founder of Megan's Foundation to Prevent Domestic Violence. We founded this foundation so we can provide grants to colleges and high schools to prevent it before it happens. Y'all take one of these and apply for a grant if you want to spend our money. My name is Mary Montgomery, and I'm the Executive Director for Megan Montgomery Foundation.
I'm Lisa Overton. I'm the Talent Coordinator at Stanford University. I also oversee the Office of Student Conduct, and Stanford University is a recipient of a grant from the Megan Montgomery Foundation that we use for prevention programming.
Good morning, my name is Tina Desesel. I'm Department Head of Political Science and Sociology at Jack State, but for this purpose, I'm the PI for Sexual Assault and Abuse Settlement Program funded through the OEC. And I'm here with my colleague, Leah.
Hi, I'm Raymond Lawrence. I teach here at UAB, and I also do some research around policy in this area where prison, especially prison and education prison intersects. So that's
Sergeant Penny from Trinity State Montgomery.
Lisa Smith from Wallace State Municipal.
I'm Rachel O'Sullivan. I'm Assistant Vice President for External Support and Alumni Affairs at Athens State University. So I do records.
And I'm Julie Martin, and I work in the security office at Athens State University with all the officers and
follow and strength of the community.
My name is Gabrielle Felix, and I'm a state domestic violence resource prosecutor for Alabama. I work with all the district attorney's offices and all law enforcement.
My name is Jennifer Williams, I'm with the Battered Women's Justice Project.
My name is Rob Valente. I'm also with the Battered Women's Justice Project for BWG.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Henry, and we're part of the contingent, obviously, of the Battered Women's Justice Project.
I'm Connie Manager, I'm a victim assistance specialist with the United States Attorney's Office in the Northern District.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Becker, also with BWG.
Good morning, I'm Romana Rosal, also with BWG.
I'm Kelly Glenn. I'm the Deputy Director at One Place Family Justice Center here in Birmingham.
Good morning, I'm Rebecca McWilliams, the Executive Director of One Place Family Justice Center in Birmingham.
I'm Michelle Lyon, the Director of the Counseling Center at Faulkner University in Montgomery.
Good morning, my name is Steve Osbeth, and I'm teaching for Women's Religious State Community College in Mobile, and the UAB alumni.
Good morning, my name is Rodney Grant at University of West Alabama. I'm the Executive Director of Office of Sponsors Programs, Research and Outreach. We facilitate all the grants and such to actively work there. And thank you for the making donation.
Morning, my name is Eric Hibble. I'm in the college. I'm a professor, event librarian, and Title IX coordinator. I'm also on the advisory board of TICSA, the Association of Title IX Administrators.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jay Efron. I'm Chief of Police at Gadsden State Community College. Good morning, everybody. My name is Colin Parker, the Sergeant at Gadsden State Police Department.
Morning, everybody. I'm David Edward, Vice President Susan Owen, and Title IX coordinator at WMSA.
Good morning, Candace Selwyn. I'm an assistant professor at the University of South Alabama and also project director for a comprehensive sexual assault prevention and response program funded by OEC.
Good morning, I'm Tanjita Johnson, Senior Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs at the University of Alabama System based in Tuscaloosa.
Good morning, I'm Mark Haley, I'm Director of Public Safety for the Alabama Community College System.
Good morning, I'm Sarah Allen, CFO for the Alabama Community College System Office, and I will be speaking to you about some grants.
Good morning, I'm Amy Sullivan. I'm the Executive Director of the Crisis Center here in Birmingham. Good morning, I'm Melissa Scherer with the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. I'm our Grants Administrator.
Good morning, I'm Stacey Kerr, I'm the Public Affairs Officer with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of Alabama.
One other guest and another one has arrived. And if our online guests want to write down the comments, who they are, we can introduce them as well.
Good morning, my name is John Jones. I serve as the Vice President of Student Affairs here at UAB.
And cute Jeremy Fisher from our state, our attorney office, and they welcome our guests. So we do have some chairs up here for you. We just used the time to go around and to introduce ourselves. Do you have anybody who put anything in the comments? No. Okay. So I just have a very welcome, and then I think we can get our program started. Welcome so much. And so I want to introduce myself, and I really just want to say how excited we are again to have everybody here at our campus to bring folks together, just to talk about the work that we do and look at opportunities to really grow the work that we do and support the work we do. We are so honored to have Dr. Aldo here from the Office of Violence Against Women, talking about the work that is already happening in our community that your office is supporting, but letting us know about all of the important opportunities that we have as colleges and universities to continue this work in prevention, which is really my focus here at the university. I know that Suzanne mentioned really kind of preventing it before it happens, which is so important. And it's also so important to be able to have comprehensive services because it does happen, and it happens at alarming rates. And so all of the work that we do together is just so important. And so I'd like to go ahead now and invite Director from the United States Attorney's Office to the stage. And thank you so much for bringing this to us and bringing us all together for this great initiative.
Wow, this is such an incredible room. Oh my gosh. I know you all just got peppered with emails from me and probably executives in your agencies and calendar invites. And it was amazing to watch the RSVPs trickle in from around the state. And even walking into the parking lot, I saw a vehicle for Bishop State Community College, where I was down in Mobile and South Alabama. And it's amazing to see the number of institutions that are here present and then joining us virtually as well through the feed. Dr. Jones, thank you so much. Dr. Kennedy, Micah, thank you so much for all the work and hospitality that went into this, especially as everyone has experienced the delays of us navigating our community and our transportation system. So thank you so much for your patience and bearing with us with that. We're so fortunate to have the Director of the Office of Violence Against Women, Rosie Hidalgo, and her team, as well as visitors from the Battered Women's Justice Project as well here in our community. Director Hidalgo became aware of one of the partnerships and collaboration that we have going on, not just in our community here in Jefferson County, but around the state as well. And she became aware that this past winter and had a conversation that, with our office that she wanted to come and visit and learn more about the promising practices and partnerships we have ongoing in our community. And one of the aspects that she initially expressed interest in was visiting some of their local grantees amongst colleges and universities that were receiving resources. And they soon became aware that there were dollars coming to our colleges and institutions, educational institutions in our state, and they weren't really receiving many applications. And so that was really impetus for pulling this group together today. And so I'm so thankful that you prioritized this issue. And I'm going to pass it off to you right now, Director Hidalgo, to give us some kind of opening information. And I'll also mention that, folks, this is supposed to be a conversation as well. And so this isn't going to be a session of people talking at you. This is a room where we can highlight some of the work that's already going on within the community, but we want questions, and we want discussion, and we want conversation as well. So don't hesitate if you have questions to ask them, and if you have promising practices and partnerships that you want to grow and highlight, this is that environment as well, because our visitors from DC want to learn, want to nurture, and lift up and replicate also. Director Hidalgo.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thanks so much to all of you. I know everyone has so much on their plate. It just speaks volumes, and you've taken the time to come here today and participate in this conversation with us. And so we're really honored to have the opportunity to be here. As Jeremy said, I'm Rosie Hidalgo, and I serve as the Director of the Office on Violence Against Women at the Department of Justice. And we are tasked with the tremendous responsibility and privilege to be able to be a part of our nation's commitment to preventing and ending domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking, and other interconnected forms of gender-based violence. And so our mission is to help implement the Violence Against Women Act that was enacted in 1994 with that purpose in mind. And so we are now celebrating this year the 30th anniversary of VAWA. And that's really significant. And we're really taking this also as a moment to pause and to say, wow, there's significant progress has been made in these 3 decades, in these 30 years. And really the most important work is the work that happens in the communities. And so our task is really how do we help distribute grants, support these efforts, fund national training and technical assistance, and continue to learn from all of you in ways that we can really continue to enhance this work. that's why we're so appreciative of this listening session, this opportunity today, as Jeremy mentioned. And so we're looking at, the hallmarks of power and seeing what we've accomplished. We also are seeing, of course, that there's still a lot of gaps and barriers and challenges. And that's why it's important that we take this moment to reflect on the progress made, is to also know what is our vision as we're moving into this next decade. And we really want to hear from you all. And we are gathering this information as we prepare also for a larger summit later this year on November 30th, and really what we're hearing from communities around the country. So thank you. As we're kicking off this November 30th tour, that you all are one of our first, and it's our first major site on the college campuses about this. So we're excited to hear from you. And as Jeremy mentioned, we also came here to Birmingham because we have been hearing about some really great work happening through Project Safe Neighborhoods. And the fact that Birmingham is one of the places around the country that has focused that initiative on preventing and addressing domestic violence and sexual assault, and recognizing that while everyone might have their own really good work individually, that it is only when we all come together, as you mentioned, with these collaborations, these partnerships, that we really more holistically meet the moment, be there for survivors, do this work in critical ways that moves us forward. And one of the sayings that we've had, that I've had, is, that sometimes we recognize that it's easier just to do our own work in our silos, right? But we know that those impacted by domestic and dating violence, sexual assault, their lives don't exist in silos. And so to be able to address these issues really requires a lot more holistic approaches. And as we were talking about this, actually we were talking about a fellow partner yesterday, we're trying to better coordinate amongst all our federal components and agencies. And say, I don't know, people talk about silos, that people like that, they get defensive. And so we should just call them people's cylinders of excellence. And the importance of moving out of our cylinders of excellence to better, do this work. So I share that with you all, recognizing you all bring tremendous also expertise in the work that you're doing. But this is what's fantastic when we can come together. And Project Safe Neighborhoods yesterday, we went to the One Place Family Justice Center, such an excellent initiative here in Birmingham, and brought together amazing conversations where we have law enforcement, prosecutors, courts at the local, state, and the federal level, the U.S. Attorney and Jeremy with that office. And just that dialogue, people were all saying, I can do this tool, we can do this. And it was when we connected all these other pieces that we were really able to help a survivor. And the One Place Family Justice Center that does it from such a survivor-centered, trauma-informed, holistic way, recognizing that there really is no one-size-fits-all, that it really means meeting someone where they're at, asking them what they need, supporting that journey, and recognizing that it's a process, and that's why it really takes all of us. So yesterday's conversations that we had with these systems, but also with so many community partners, and in fact, we just came from visiting HICA, and see the amazing work of the Hispanic Interest Coalition of Alabama, the way in which they're reaching, populations that otherwise might not have trust and might not be able to connect with critical resources, and the ways in which they too are doing that in a very holistic way. But they bring that to the table as part of the coordinated response, and then they also were saying that as they join the coordinated response, they now have a broader network, and that facilitates a journey of safety and justice and healing for the people they work with. So we've already had a very rich day and a half in Birmingham. I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to see such important work. And the campuses, as you all know, play a huge role in this work. And thank you for lifting up prevention, because as we're looking at the response and how do we meet survivors and how do we look at all the systems, at the end of the day, our goal is not necessarily more and more social services that we need in systems. It's like, how do we go up river, right? How do we work towards that social transformation? How do we prevent this? And so I really honor the work that you're doing on prevention, and that all of you, and how campuses play such a huge role in that space. And in fact, over February, it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, as many of you may know. We're going to have a dialogue with students later this afternoon at House College, and we want to hear from more young people. In fact, DOJ, along with HHS, we're sponsoring a virtual summit on February 28th, so we'll send you all a link where we're going to hear from young people around the country and lift up what prevention looks like, hearing from the voices of young people on campuses and otherwise for doing this work, for centering healthy relationships. And some research that recently emerged from It's On Us. They did some research in a number of college campuses around the country. And when they shared that research with us, they were saying, especially with young men, research with young men, a very slim percentage had ever learned about consent. Like they literally were hearing that concept for the first time right, at colleges. What does that mean? You know, and of course the whole concept of healthy relationships. And how are we really building in that who all are healthy and people thrive? That aspect of healthy relationships is so crucial. As well as when these incidents happen on college campuses, that they get the trauma-informed survivor-centered approach. And again, some may want to engage with the criminal justice system, many others don't. You know, others want to engage with the campus education system, others want other forms of support and healing. And so it's like, how do we make sure that there are multiple pathways to meet survivors where they're at? I just want to share with you one quick anecdote or story. So much of this work is often led by the voices of survivors, and we learn from their leadership. And we had an opportunity just last month. It was National Stalking Awareness Month in January. These awareness months, you know, they're action-forcing events, right? They get us all together, they have conversations that are important conversations we need to be having all year, but it's that opportunity to gather people. And this also was the 20th anniversary of when the first National Stalking Awareness Month was set up. And as is often the case, it's families who have lost a loved one to a tragic, you know, crime that sort of on their shoulders that they continue to advocate so that others don't have to go through what their loved ones went through. And this was the case of Debbie Yoder, whose sister was murdered by someone who was stalking her, and was murdered in 2003. And she was able to galvanize with advocates and some other national organizations. They had a hearing on the Hill, and then in 2004, the first National Stalking Awareness Month was set up. And so they said it was in honor of the 20th anniversary of commemorating National Stalking Awareness Month. Can you please do a special event? And we did that at the Department of Justice in Washington. And then the White House the next day also held a meeting with survivors and advocates. And as we heard their stories, we heard how oftentimes it's very hard for victims of stalking to get that kind of support they need. But I just want to share one quick story with you that was so illuminating. It was a young woman from a college campus from northern Texas. And she said, I got to college for my freshman year, this happened a couple years ago, and an ex-boyfriend started reaching out to her. She made it clear she wasn't interested, she moved on, she was starting her freshman year. Well, he came on campus and wandered all the dorms so he could see her name. And I knew all the welcome students to put their names. So he knew which was her dorm, when we let her know, I found your dorm, this is your dorm. And she, you know, she was unsettled by this, but and she mentioned it to an RA, and then with campus police, they said, you know, we're going to issue a stay away order for this guy because he had sort of, it was clear he was following her, stalking her. But she said like she was always downplaying it, and you know when young people are like, stalking me, stop stalking me. It almost gets like sometimes it's made light of. And she's like, I didn't want to make a big deal. I didn't realize, you know, she's like, so I was downplaying it, but the campus police said, you should talk to your dean, you should go to this, support program. So she went, and they all said to her, this is not shooting it off. This is getting dangerous. Like, he's not backing down, he's doing much more flagrantly. And she, you know, again, was like, a big deal that they connected to victim services, they were helping me do safety planning. She felt supported, they were informing her, like, there are some pretty significant warning signs here. Well, this guy was kept off the campus when he tried to get on the next day. And then he went to a bar that night with another young woman and ended up murdering her that night there right next to the college. And, you know, it sent chills through all of us as she shared her story and said, like, she said, I have survivor's guilt, you know, because that's what they did me. And then she said, and then I'm just so grateful that like what I experienced was campus police, a dean, a victim service provider, RA, people who like knew about this, took it seriously, supported me, helped me do safety planning. And we had other survivors of stalking that they all were like, that was totally not our experience. Like many of them have gone through horrific circumstances when they couldn't get people to listen to them, to support them. So again, that story she shared with us, you know, again brought to light like, wow, this is what a coordinated response needs to be on college campuses too. What does that look like? And how can people be proactive? And how can we support survivors? Again, we want to go and focus on prevention as much as we can, because that part is crucial. But when there are students facing these issues, the work you all do to support them saves lives and helps young people thrive and be able to develop their full potential, which is what we all want on college campuses. So again, my deep gratitude to each of you for being here, for your commitment. OPW, we now continue to be reauthorized with bipartisan support. VAWA has always been bipartisan and needs to be. Everyone, this is all our issues in every community. Congress has increased our funding because we're able to tell and measure the effectiveness of this work. So our funding for VAWA has gone up 30% just in the past 2 years. We now have $700 million that we give out. Some of it goes out in formula funding to states and territories to support victim services, prosecutors, police, courts, but others go out to discretionary grants. And those discretionary grants are really important ways to fund innovation, to fund opportunities to strengthen these kinds of partnerships. So one of those grant programs are our campus grants, which we're so proud of the campus grants. And Congress recently increased the funding for that. We now have about $25 million in campus grants. And again, as Jeremy said, we want to encourage you all, to consider applying for those grants. And whether or not individuals get our grants, we have excellent national training and TA providers that support colleges, that put together promising practices, that develop resources, trainings, webinars that are accessible to you as well. So we will, send links and share more information. But when I turn it over for the dialogue, to hear from you all, what you see working well, what you see as promising practices, but also where you see gaps and barriers and opportunities for all of us to do this work better. And I do want to apologize. I was asked to join a call at 11:15 with our Associate Attorney General real quickly from their office for 15 minutes. So I have to step out and take that call, and then we'll come back in. But we have our fantastic Principal Deputy Director, Allison Randall, here, with long-term expertise and commitment on these issues, and some others from our OPW team. And we also have our national training and TA providers with that Women's Justice Project here. So we'll all be taking notes and helping answer questions. So I will turn it over to Jeremy, and I'll turn it over to you. But again, much gratitude to all of you, and look forward to all your input, and thank you.
Quick statement, just to make sure our PowerPoint is able to go live right quick. Because I know that Mike had already said that y'all went around the room today. You kind of mentioned who all was in the room. So listed on the screen here are the agencies that have RSVP'd as of about 48 hours ago. And I know that there are more that are attending remotely also, because I do want to recognize the collective of people and agencies that have seen the value of attending this conversation and both to learn and contribute to the conversation. I've been in this room already for less than 30 minutes, and I've already been asked 3 times about when the next meeting is. Because one of my partners, who is Tony Lee with the School of Medicine, mentioned to me that one of our basic goals for today is to make sure that this isn't a one-off conversation. Every university is concerned about this topic, which is why you're here, which is why folks are signing on. And so we need to build a continual conversation so that the solutions and programs that we're talking about and the resources that are working in some communities can be replicated in other areas of the state, benefiting students, and hopefully educating policymakers in Montgomery as well to understand the needs for more support, training, and resources in these areas. So I do want to pay homage to you and my gratitude to you for taking your time to travel from all around the state to be here today. Listed on here as well are several community partners. We have 3 family justice centers in our state, based in the Shoals area, Russell Shoals, Montgomery, and Birmingham. It's a best practice model and such a great resource in some of y'all's institutions and communities. And too often, there's a lack of familiarity. The community-based experts and resource providers who can, one, help students who need education, need services after trauma happens, and as well can train law enforcement and staff on your campus of how to have a trauma-informed system that handles students and situations that they're navigating in the best and most research-driven way. And so Rosie mentioned, so this conversation, let's click through them all, this conversation is framed as a grants conversation. And grants is just another word for money. And I love talking grants, and I love talking money because everybody wants it. And our U.S. Attorney's Office is unique in that this is what we found a vital resource and interest for our community partners. So we try to be proactive in working with our partners and not just accessing DOJ funding, but any kind of funding that can build a better public safety system within our community. Sometimes it's education, sometimes it's job training, sometimes it's healthcare. And so we worked not just with DOJ funding, but HHS, DOL, Department of Education, anything that makes our community safer and stronger and supports people who are at risk of victimization. We try to bring those resources to our partners. And so that is in part why we're so thrilled to have OVW here. As Rosie mentioned, the bulk of OVW's resources comes through their campus program. And this is a general synopsis of what the campus program provides: security, victim services, and prevention and education awareness programs. And OVW last year made, I think, 40 awards through this funding stream. They're planning on making 50 this year as well. And again, we haven't had applications going forward from our state for these resources. And we want to have those conversations about what hesitancy there might be in going after some of these resources. And OVW's resources aren't just limited to the campus program. I know that many applicants initially look at who is eligible to apply for a grant, and that's a very logical question to ask. But oftentimes you can partner with another agency to be the lead on a grant, and you can be the project site, and your students can be the recipients of the services of that grant-funded project. And so I wanted to list several other OVW resources. Leading into this meeting, I circulated a link that had OVW's entire funding plan for FY24. Don't hesitate to contact me, whether you're in the Northern District or out of the Northern District, following this meeting, because I have a grants distribution list that I try to push out information on. Also, joining us remotely as well are the other two U.S. Attorney's offices in Montgomery and Mobile as well. They're great resources to, even if you're not in the Northern District. The first grant that's listed, the demonstration project of the Trauma-Informed Victim Center training on law enforcement and domestic violence, safety violence. That's a new grant. That's going to be so fun to learn what that looks like, and I'm so excited about, I see Allison's face. Are you concerned about me mentioning that grant?
No, we'd love for you to come out. I just don't want you to hear from you all.
Absolutely. Sorry, Allison. Thank you for correcting me. Other resources, I'll say OVC, OJVADP, BJA, and HHS. Don't just look at justice agencies as well. And so I'm going to follow Allison's lead. I think everyone in this room is aware of why we're focused on this issue, because it has lasting effects. If you were victimized when you were in college, it has lasting effects in your life. And there's more talk, and it doesn't just impact victims, but DV perpetrators become community violence perpetrators as well. And so there are so many reasons our office and the entire Department of Justice is focused on this topic. And so, as Allison directed, This is supposed to be a listening session for you all. And you all are the experts, so please let us know what questions you have, as well as what practices you all have implemented that are showing promising effects within the community. And we have a microphone as well that we can pass around the room so people can project better as well. Stacey, do you have that mic? Okay. Tony. So. Please self-select and raise your hand. I know that there are some people in this room who I've already spoken with who have some things to champion, and so please don't be shy in that. So, yes, I was about to volunteer something.
Is it over? I can do that. There are some of us in the room with campuses, and I know there are several community colleges, that we really don't have much of a residential population on our campuses. I'm in our division, we have no residential population, and we serve a rural community of commuters. And so we've been scared of some of the campus grants because we serve this rural commuter population. And they have to be low income. We know that they are high risk for domestic violence. We know they are suffering from it, but we might not be able to reach them in the traditional way that a normal campus can. So we would love to hear about opportunities to, because our traditional annual report will show zeros. So how can we tell that story so you guys will be able to understand that story?
That is such a great question. I'm so glad you asked that because you're exactly the kind of program that we want to fund. And we want to fund more community colleges, and we want to fund more commuter colleges and more folks in rural areas. You know, when we worked on the national survey, like sexual assault, dating violence on college campuses, you know, it was those kinds of schools that were showing the highest rates, particularly of dating violence, and the highest rates of students starting school who had already experienced sexual assault before they ever set foot on campus, right? So we really want to get you funding. And there are a lot of requirements. And I really appreciate you mentioning all those different grants. We've got all those things, and we know it's a lot when we look at it. But we're here to support you in that. We invest in you. So we want to support you. So reach out to us. I know our team would love to talk anybody through those applications. And if you get a grant, work with you on what does that look like, right? Like, what does that prevention look like for your student population? Because we want to reach you and your students.
I'm speaking basically on our campus, University of West Alabama. This may be true for the community colleges and the four-year universities. I used to work at the University of Alabama, so I know there's in between. I think my personal experience is working in both the rural small universities, regional universities, and an R1 on the grants, the limited submissions coming from the state is in the capacity at our sports programs offices. Typically, when the grants come, it's the faculty doing research or some of the faculty doing outreach services. So, if you at your campus have, this is my suggestion, I'm all about networking. So start internally and go to your different, maybe the professors in psychology or that deal with this topic, right? And have them to be and help you with that grant project. And that's the other thing. So I know there's a lot of higher level individuals here that think grants is like, oh, I don't know how to write a grant. So that may be part of the hesitation. It's just a matter of getting those comfortable. Because when I talk to the different areas on campus, our Title IX director, or our dean of students, or our chief of police, that's not their expertise. So they kind of are afraid of it and step back because they're not aware of it. So I think part of that would be the education on grant projects, especially when they see all the administrative stuff and all the forms that have to be filled out. And I reassure the folks at UWA, that's my role, that's our office's role, we handle that. You just tell us what of those three topics that you want to address. You don't have to address all three. Just pick one that is a weakness that you need help with, and let's build from there. So I think, I don't know if that was a discussion or what, I feel that was something that might be why there's a challenge or barrier of grants, least amount of grants being submitted in the state.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, I worked in academic for a long time, went back to the nonprofit world, and I was like, this is terrible, we should give it all back. What are we doing? Right? It's so hard, right? And you know, right? Like all of us who are going to we've been grantees, and they are long applications. And so we do pre-application webinars and conference calls, and we've got like email addresses on the front of that, and we want to talk to you and answer your questions and walk you through it. Because we don't want to just fund a big organization with a grant writer, right? We want to get funds where it's needed and where you're doing exciting work. We have a special initiative that funds HBCUs and Hispanic serving institutions and tribal colleges, right? Where we have dedicated funds set aside to reach these minority serving institutions. And so again, we want to walk you through those steps and those applications. So please reach out to us because we're all folks who've worked in the field, right? And we're here for you. So yeah, don't be intimidated. We know it's really long. We'll do our very best to talk you through it.
Again, I'm Angie Hamilton. I'm from Waterville County, Tarrant County. Promise not to try to get on my soapbox, but
Please do your passion.
he hears from me all the time. Just to follow up on the question you had, how can rural campuses with non-residents get out and help? Just like the director said, when she had a conversation with some college men who the first time they ever heard the word consent was when they were in college, means that we missed a whole population of kids before they get to college. And all those kids aren't going to college. So if there's a way to write a grant and partner with your local DA's office or your law enforcement, because there's a lot of grants, like Mary said, that we as a DA's office or local law enforcement cannot apply for. We have to have either the county or city or a campus to apply for those grants. But we could partner. And that partnership could look like some kind of prevention program at the middle school and high school level. What I found, and I mean, we still have domestic violence, we have sexual assault, we have horrendous cases that we are trying to combat every single day. But over the last 2 years that I've been doing this, those cases have changed. What you would normally think of a domestic violence case has changed. Why? Because of the internet, because of social media, because of our child exploitation cases. We get hammered every day with child exploitation cases. And when you look at those cases and you look at those families, they're in domestic violence situations. And it has turned to the children to be the victims of child abuse and child exploitation cases. And there's no funding for that. And that's what we need. We need to get in and start. We've got a computer forensics program. I'm sorry, I talked already. Y'all just tell me shut up. But we have a computer forensics program in-house at our one place in Florence because law enforcement, I'm sure you go back to this, we spend 90% of our time now when we investigate cases. What are we looking at? Phones, computers, all that stuff. And that takes time. And we need people to be able to be trained to do that, and we need the resources to be able to do that because we've got to shut those people down. When we, in 2018, in our community, we started a prevention program, which is me, and I go into all the local schools in the Shoals area, and I try to talk to children about the dangers of social media, internet safety, stranger danger, because when we look at our sexual assault cases by the time they get to campus, I've been doing this 20 years. I've had one stranger case. You know why? Because they're all best friends, because they talk online all the time, right? They knew everybody. So when we get our sexual assault cases from campus, even when they're not living on campus, they're living on campus, they're hanging out on campus, they're figuring out how to spend the weekend together because they're taking classes on campus, right? And then what happens? They don't understand consent. There's day rape, and then who do they go to do the third, fourth, two, and that whole cycle starts again. But if we can get into the middle school, and I talk to fourth graders, y'all, fourth graders know more than you all do about the internet. They have already seen child porn and exploitation at the kindergarten age. That's where we need to also focus under the brand of domestic violence and sexual assault, because we see it every day. And I don't think that we're ready for that. And I know that with LFOES, that it's quite a lot from our jurisdiction, Gabby, I think, because we've kind of been on the forefront of how do we be proactive and stop this and not just reactive. But when the laws were written about all this stuff, nobody thought in 2024 we're going to be walking around with computer phones at all times, where we can access our victim at any time, all day long. And that's what our victims are dealing with. So we have to think outside of the box. Of course, we need money, we always need money, but we need people. We need people that can help do that. If we have those resources, somehow the local law enforcement and DA's office could apply for that resource, it would be amazing. If OPS apply for those resources, it would be amazing. But I would love to partner with our campuses anywhere. And I can help you across the state, reach out to the local DA's office, I'm at the Gabby Kid with OPS. Let us know that we're passionate, that it starts with the kids. That's how we break our cycle of violence.
Thank you. I'm so glad you talked about middle school. I have to share this with y'all. We got a phone call last week from an administrator in the school in North Alabama, and she said the Maggie's Foundation come up and do a seminar for us on dating violence. We always get subject matter experts to do that for us, okay? And I said, of course, what's going on? And she said, our middle school girls are sending nude pictures to their boyfriends. And I said, wow, how is that happening? I think she's doing it on their own. What's going on? She said, oh no, of course not. The boys are encouraging them and manipulating them to do it. I said, but wait a minute. What you just told me was you have a problem with the girls sending nude pictures, was the first sentence out of your mouth. And she said, oh, that's not what I meant, but that's what she said. My point is consent. If the boys have to be educated, number one. The girls have to be educated, of course. But middle school, yes, absolutely. And also the safe spaces. We have to create safe spaces with the adults to understand all this as well. Because when the adults blame the girls, we're focusing on the wrong problem. And I understand it wasn't to be victims, don't get me wrong. My point is, there also has to be grants available for safe spaces for everybody, and particularly education, primary prevention before the harm occurs. So anyway, just my 2 cents.
I think one of my concerns is how are we going to continue to do the work we're doing and move forward with it, with everything that's going on politically, about what you can talk about in schools, what you can, books you can have in your library, books you can, the courses that you offer, the courses you can. Not, K-12, also in higher education. And, I have a lot of colleagues, and there are other states where this is really become even more serious, where, DEI offices are being shut down. How can we continue to do the work and just call it something else? The work is difficult enough when everybody is on board, but when you start having the politics in it, and to where it's like, well, how do you have discussions in K-12? Because surely we can all agree that sex education in the United States is just abominable. And if we had proper sex education in K-12, all the problems we're seeing in higher ed, we would be seeing. Because our students would know what consent is when they got to college. There are certainly more than do now. So I guess that's my main concern. How do we continue to do the work and improve upon it when there are people who literally are afraid they're going to lose their jobs if they utter the wrong word? I don't know if anybody has an answer to that, but it's a discussion that I know is going on. It needs to continue to go on because those are barriers that I'm not sure, those are not funding barriers. They're, political barriers that, again, can cause people who do this work to lose their livelihood simply for trying to do the right thing.
Well, I'll chime in. As you mentioned, there's just various vernacular that you can use to call something a different thing. And so what we're talking about is violence, and everyone is into violence, regardless of the context, whether it's during sex or whether it's during a relationship, we are into violence. And so if we are, this has been a unifying topic, regardless of the political party, because there are family values and healthy values and tough on crime, and that's what we're talking about, is preventing crime. And so, fortunately, some of the problems that have existed in other conversations haven't bled over yet into this, but I do think that there is enough language when we're talking about health and safety that hopefully we can find ways to navigate those political challenges if and when they occur. But it takes creativity and willingness to find a way to do this. And I'm willing to work with partners to try to find that way so that we can continue and grow some of the good work. But that's a legitimate challenge.
All right. So I'm from the University of South Alabama, and we are a recipient of a campus grant from Obesity. We're in our no-cost extension period, so we were funded for 3 years, and we feel that we built a pretty successful model for a comprehensive approach to sexual assault prevention and response on the campus. Now we're a mid-sized, 4-year public university. And sorry, I have any thoughts here. I'm going to try to tie them all together. But like I said, I feel that we've built a pretty successful model, although every program can always improve, and we're working on that. So we feel like we have a lot to share with other campuses. But I will also say that I don't think it's a surprise or controversial to say anyone that's lived in Alabama for very long that we are an under-resourced state. And so I think that what that does is that creates a good bit of competition between even community agencies, particularly in the lower half of the state. So what I see to be a real need are funding opportunities for larger collaborative projects, because when you have smaller pots of funding, I don't know if that really breeds collaboration and breeds more competition, because every organization wants resources for their own community. So, opportunities to where this conversation does continue in a systematic way, where colleges, regardless of size, can come together and learn from each other in ways where we can kind of be transparent about what those challenges and successes are.
We have in the past funded a consortium of universities, and I'm not sure if we're funding consortia this year or not, but we found that to be really important, because you have all different sizes and resources. And when you're trying to measure sexual assault and dating violence on campus, right? Like for smaller schools versus big research schools, that's really different. The ability to work together is important. So I'll make sure to bring that piece of feedback back to folks. And I also wanted to point everyone to our resources Changing Our Campus, or changingourecampuses.org, and it's our technical assistance just for schools. And you don't have to be a recipient of OPW campus funds to use that. They've got some resources, but it's also for for potential applicants. So that's another place where you can go and get some resources that might be helpful to you, especially trying to figure out who can I go to, right? I'm trying to build this network and share these resources so we're collaborating, not just competing.
Hi guys, I'm Mark from the Community College System, and it's time to bring you to those Let's talk about some of what we've been doing and talk about some of the problems we're seeing emerge with this. I've been partnering with the U.S. Attorney's Office for years to provide training to other law enforcement. One of the issues that we're seeing right off the bat, I teach a lot, part of my investigative classes deal with trauma-based interviews. When we're sitting doing classes, we're finding that the majority of the guys have never heard this information from the very beginning. So that's a key issue to think about that. Now, on the other side, this is where we could partner with Gabby. Gabby has put together some really good training and to talk about end results and how all this ties together. Long story short, We did training where we brought in our colleges, and there again, we bring in outside agencies for no cost. It's one of those things, because what we work on campus is to also benefit folks off campus. Back to what you were talking about, your student population, with our behavioral intervention programs that we have, we're going to see those warning signs and indicators for that victim of sexual assault and domestic violence. Just because it didn't happen on our campus don't mean we're going to work it. It may mean that we're the conduit because they're comfortable talking to us to get them to whether we're going to work, getting a protection from abuse order, we're going to magistrate to get an order. Sometimes going to court, we do quite a bit of that. We have to breach those areas. But the other thing I'm talking about is what we've got to do with training. Because this is kind of the issue that came up. Last, was it October? Yeah, October, November. We've done a lot of this, we've got a lot planned for this year. Give you an example of how this flows. We did training back in October where it was open for our schools, but we opened it up. U.S. Attorney's Office helped publicize it. We had probably 78 people in classes. We sat down and did for baseline training where we talked about DD, both from the sides of recognizing to how to handle it. Now, right after that, I did an evidence class there, dealing with how to collect the process, that part of the evidence. Within 30 days of the program, we had the first payoff of it. We had a rape case at Marion Military Institute that probably would not have been discovered had Gabby not provided that information. That connected it with us. We brought our investigators in. He's still sitting in jail on unlocked. But the thing about it, it overlooked for years. The DD cases that you see on campus, the effects for the students, we see the effects, but they don't live on our campus. But the reason why you have a kid who now sits in the back of the classroom, who started off first of the semester at the front of the classroom, dresses really nice, now sits in the back, and the dress has changed, wearing the hoodies, glasses, the GPA is falling. Those intervention programs is pulling it out. And that's where we tie in our resources, because we're dealing with the crisis center, what regular, and it's not awkward there, but from the beginning, y'all do that. You can see where I'm a big believer in networking. But what we're seeing is, that's what you're saying, about the prevention is part of the element where we're not getting in front of the students early enough and fast enough. But we're looking at prevention is a huge issue, but we've got to get more training for the LE side for how they're actually picking up on it. So we're looking at multiple angles if we're going to really address this problem.
Here's just a little bit in terms of, we have been spending a lot of time and energy here at UAB on what we call settings and systems changes, and so these kinds of things are really interesting to us. We would like to make some systemic changes. We know it's, we need to be comprehensive in terms of that. So we became aware of an international sort of movement for something called Help Promoting Universities, and Help Promoting Universities, I don't know if you're familiar with the Open Charter and the different campuses that are doing this, but we're the first in the nation to become an official Help Promoting University. There are 18 others who've done it, including Cornell, Berkeley, and all the ones you've heard about, right? And then there are almost 300 that are now in the process of sort of moving towards this. And this is moving away from sort of just working with the victims, but really being what we call salutogenic, which is taking a proactive approach to specifically address community creates health. And this is, we're doing this across the board on all kinds of things and trying to say, okay, Maya is changing the way in which she's doing programming, where she's very consent focused, very, she's still doing some bystander intervention, but she's moved away from that more and talking more about healthy relationships. Again, taking that salutogenic approach, which we would love to see in K-12, but absolutely at least need to start here, because here we're less. They are getting to us, but we have a little bit more control of what we can do at a college setting. But I think it's really important for folks to really think about how we approach this. And one of the things that came to our attention is we looked sort of internationally at this movement for health and universities, this framework called collective impact. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that from FSG, but the collective impact, they literally have 5 conditions, and one of those, they think you don't have backbone support to bring together lots of different kinds of agencies, you won't be able to make the success you want to make. And that has been profound for us, because if we think about it on our college campus, we can say each school, that we have here, we can think of them as a different agency. But when we talk about this issue, there are so many of us, just in Birmingham alone, that are working on this issue, but there's no backbone support other than potentially what we provide that is literally a person that helps with this. And I'll give you an example from an international perspective in Ireland, because it's much smaller than the U.S., right? But they have now a designated person paid for by their government that works with universities to make settings and systems changes. And that person is their backbone support for health and universities. And we're office to be funding backbone support and an individual that works within a community to help us do this, to help, because I mean, it's like when you look up the impact and you see the 5 ways to do it, it's like everybody that's working on this issue of domestic violence or interpersonal violence, we would all have a common agenda. We would have shared measurement. That we would all be going in the same direction, and we have mutually reinforcing activities. That's a really important element. And the only way you can do that is to have somebody whose full-time job is to do that. I will tell you, I've applied, I've been in college for 25 years now, I've applied for student grants. It feels like that is my only job to do when I'm doing it. And again, that's the issue, is that if we don't have backbone support that brings all these different agencies together so we have a comprehensive transdisciplinary approach, we're not going to be successful. And I think if you haven't become familiar with collective impact or that health and universities movement, it's an important infrastructure that can really help us as we try and make a difference on this topic.
Hey everyone, I'm the executive director of the Megan Montgomery Foundation, and Megan was my little sister that was murdered. So I'm new to all of this, and I think all of you guys are so amazing. We're carrying on Megan's legacy, doing what she wanted to do, which is prevention. She wanted to warn other women about the dangers of domestic violence and all that kind of stuff. The most at-risk age is 16 to 24. And we just give money away, and then we actually just give a grant to Marion Military Institute. And I don't remember anything to do with and so, when the colleges ask, what should we do with the money, they know what they're going to do with the money, but what we do is not sex ed, it's not faith-based, it's not political. It's very, very simple. It's teaching boys and girls how to be good human beings, and consent and all of these boundaries and all of these, things that they don't know about. So, and our grant application is 2 pages. Thank you.
I am so honored to be here for all these wonderful things everyone's doing. So I'm going to have to plug Jacksonville State University for just a minute. We have a Center for Best Practices in Law Enforcement in the department of my dear colleague here, and they do trainings for law enforcement, but also for campus schools. And we were recently a recipient for the one of the campus program grants, and we were able to bring law enforcement training for the entire state. So they have grant funds to do this kind of work, and they are eager to hear from law enforcement specifically of what y'all need. The other thing is that currently, Jacksonville State University is currently the recipient of the OEC grant to create a sexual assault and abuse program, but also to replace the sexual assault response services that we lost. Currently, we have Calhoun, Weaver, and Talladega counties are completely unserved with sexual assault response. So we're working hard to establish that, and to do that, it was really important for us to build a community coordinated response. We also recently lost our DA, so we have a new DA to establish relationships with, but we are creating new partners with St. Michael's Outreach, who has deep ties to the undocumented, indigenous, and underserved and marginalized communities. So we're really excited to start these partnerships. But please contact Jay with any ideas y'all have for training or any other kind of way you can collaborate.
Any more questions? Or comments? Thank you.
One thing I want to mention as well, I think it's Dr. Sell who mentioned consortia, and Allison mentioned as well. There is state legislation that was enacted years ago that encouraged the organization of conversations around this for when intimate partner violence has its worst outcome in terms of fatalities. And that effort has never really materialized around the state to have a coordinated conversation about the challenges that communities, including colleges and universities, are experiencing in regards to violence. And again, one of our efforts in pulling together these agencies is to develop the beginnings of that conversation. We don't represent every facet of dating violence and partner violence within our communities, but that conversation has to begin somewhere. And pulling a room together like this with experts from law enforcement, from student services, from a medical background as well, this is a great place to start from. Because there are institutions and agencies that have already met success, and I think everyone's agency and school in this room is interested in doing more and doing better, and we all have a vested interest in seeing each other succeed. So I do want to hopefully use this room as the beginning of a conversation of how to kind of unite and coordinate and fulfill a promise that our state has already stated we would fulfill, but hasn't pulled together resources to do it. And so I hope to stay in communication with everyone in this room. I'm trying to be respectful of everyone's time. I know we were late starting, but we're also coming up on the time where we were supposed to be winding down. So I do want to respect everyone's time and also hear any additional questions or comments from either our visitors from DC or from our partners who have traveled from across the state as well.
Well, and we do want to, we've had a lot to talk about, about prevention and the need to reach young folks. And while a lot of people here are focused on campuses and universities, OPW does have funding specifically to address, the needs of children and youth, and that includes, primary prevention, working with young folks, working with men as partners, right, doing that outreach in middle school and high school. In addition to the prevention components of the campus grant program. And those campus grants, they include prevention, they include training for law enforcement, they include building like a coordinated community response, and they include like training for your student judicial body. And they include all those different pieces, and that prevention is one of the key parts. And it does include like how are you going to make sure that every student gets that prevention, including in the community colleges and the commuter schools, like we were talking about earlier. But you may have service providers or K through 12 folks who want to partner with you as universities in reaching younger folks, right? Because we see that the rates of sexual assault right there, the highest right when school starts. And, you know, students are most likely to experience sexual assault when they have experienced sexual assault before, right? So you've got to connect with students before they come on campus for the first day. And so some of those local partnerships may be something that's really useful to you. So I just want to urge everybody to, in addition to thinking about that and thinking about all those great lists, I'm sure Jeremy will make sure you get the list of all those grant programs, look at them all, but go to that changingourcampus.org website that we talked about, see if there's some resources there that are useful to you. Don't hesitate to contact our staff. They were just sending messages, tell people that we're there to help, and that we want to talk, and that we funded schools from 500 to 50,000, right? And that we want to work with you on what makes sense for your community, right? One thing I've learned in working with schools, everyone is so unique, right? And we understand that, and we want to support you in that.
Suzanne?
I'm fast as
Real quickly, I want to brag on University of West Alabama because of all of our grantees, and we only have about a dozen. They started a social media campaign on campus, and it's been very successful in reaching the kids where they are. Where are the kids? They're on their phone. They're in front of their computer. And what we're having, the issues, the challenges that we're seeing is that kids won't show up for meetings, but they will show up on their phones. And so to think about the future, how do we reach the kids? How do we reach college students through social media? And we brag about y'all all the time because when our colleges are having challenges to get kids to show up for their meetings, we say, y'all need to talk to University of West Alabama because they're right. So please think about social media funding. We're now in conversation with HBCUs in Alabama about doing a social media campaign across the state for HBCUs, and that came out of our grantee in Montgomery, University of Alabama State. So social media is the next best thing to reach young people.
I haven't looked at these newer grants that are out there, the proposals, but at a previous university, I felt like we were really poised to apply for an OBW grant. And we knew the work that it takes and all of the things that you have to do to prove, but we had team, we did have faculty who were working with us to do some of this stuff, and so we really felt very poised to be able to do this. But we read one of the requirements being that there was a mandate for 100% participation in certain, and that just shut us down, right? The climate, I think, of higher education is when you are mandating students to do 100% more and enroll, every people are competing for enrollment, and someone's like, oh, they're making us go through all of these things. We are not, even though my program would be like, yes, we're going to do that, our administration is not going to let us do that. And so that right there is another barrier, right? We were like, we had the team, we knew the work, we felt like we were poised, and then we were just like, this is not going to happen. We took it up and we were really shut down. And so I don't know if those are components, but I do think that those are things like the goal is good, but the ability to actually implement that will keep folks from being able to apply. That's just a comment and experience.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. And I know our campus folks are listening, and that particular one is for the prevention, that you have to somehow reach 100% of students with your prevention. So, I know that we'd be happy to talk more about, like, gosh, how does that work in the real world, and what are some of the issues. So if you're hitting that and you're like, how would I ever do that? Talk to us and let's see more about like what that could mean for you in the real world. And our folks were messaging, they were like, tell folks, right, we're funding a lot of that social media work, and some of those are the most effective ways to reach people. But we know that with prevention, there's dosage and frequency, right? And we know so much more from the CDC about what works and what doesn't work. And I know that the Make-A-Remember Foundation has funded a lot of those evidence-based practices. So if there's anything that we can do to help on that, I know we'd love to. And in addition to the great list that Jeremy has, and I'm sure y'all can get the slides, we've got brochures with information about our different funds, and I think there have been some universities who have gotten funds related to like our transitional housing program, because one of the key issues you were seeing was how do I support and house some of these survivors of domestic violence and dating violence, other issues like that. So we've got information for you. And when you're like, what in the world with applying for these grants? A great thing you can do, we were talking about this just earlier today, is you can come be a peer reviewer. So all our grants are reviewed by folks who are like working in the field, right? Like you. And you can be peer reviewers. We'll pay you for your time. You bring your expertise to weigh in on those grants, and you learn a lot about what makes a successful grant application as well. So we need you because we need your experience about what works and what doesn't work on the ground as part of that. And then that's a useful resource that you can bring back to your grant writing and share with your colleagues as well.
Allison, I'll add that, speaking of OVW staff, y'all have an incredible team of program administrators, and I've worked alongside community partners who are applying for y'all's grants, and they're in the 11th hour, and they have a question about something specific, and very confusing in the language of the RFP about whether they satisfy that obligation or not, and during that process, they've reached out to the program administrator and gotten that resolved. So where there is a need and a will to apply for a grant, let's have a conversation about how to do that in the most successful way. Because I know OVW wants to be encouraging and not intimidating in these RFPs and their applications. But we have to have those conversations about how to satisfy those obligations and give our agencies and partners a chance to be successful.
We have a breaking update from our team. They want everybody to know that the statutory requirement for schools to train all students has changed a little bit. So it's not a 100% mandate anymore. It is train all students through incoming students, through bystander intervention, and through prevention efforts. So again, reach out to us because we always want to work with you. You heard me earlier talk about those pre-application webinars. So that's a great place to come to that, ask those questions. Again, we're here to support you and help you. Folks don't always think about the federal government that way, but that's what we're here to do. And so don't hesitate to reach out to us. There are some differences in terms of the residential schools versus the commuter schools and the community colleges in terms of how that works. So again, our team is like dying to talk to you all. So we can't wait. Come grab some flyers from us about some of these other grant programs as well.
And I just want to give one suggestion about the 100% participation or student participation. What I have found works well, and I'm spoiled, I have great relationships with our school administrators and our universities in our area, but the assembly aspect does not work. The show up at this time in the student center does not work. Post up in your core classes. Students have to go to your core classes. Work out a schedule where you're hitting all your core classes. You're in there. It's a smaller percentage of students at a time, which opens dialogue, and they will tell you things. One thing I was not prepared for, if y'all do this, which I really encourage you to do it, is the amount of disclosures that happen after each conversation. So you have to be ready for that. You have to have a team ready for that to be able to point people where they need to go. But the sooner you talk about it, the sooner these kids respond. And then you find out what else is going on in their home life. But you talking about those pictures, that's what we talk about on a daily basis. I've got kids, am I going to make these kids criminals? Because that's what the law says, right? Or am I going to try to fix them and figure out what's happening? And the amount, yes, we still have, again, horrible domestic violence and sexual assault cases, but I was not ready for the mental health aspect, and I was not ready for the amount of suicides that we've had because of the new domestic violence that we were seeing, and the new stalking that we were seeing, and the new sexual assault that we were seeing by social media and by our children. I mean, when you have kids watching porn, I mean, a quick story, there was a case that this little girl, she was sexually acting out on other people at a young age. Of course, everybody thought, oh, well, something's happened to her. Let's get her in. Let's talk to her. No disclosure. This went on several times. She kept acting out more. Things would get worse. Get her in. No disclosure. When's the first time you've ever watched pornography? Oh, I've been watching porn since I was 5. That's where it starts. That's where our prevention needs to start, and that's why we need money for child exploitation and those type of cases. It is non-existent. You can't find it. You can work it in under domestic violence and sexual assault, which I think would work, but we need those programs. We've got to have it. I mean, you know, again, I can talk about my kids all day. But the other thing is the minorities on campus getting prevention within. I very rarely have sexual assault cases and domestic violence cases come through, and I have one. This is my Title IX. We have a wonderful relationship with my Title IX, but they're not reported. But when I do get them, it's one class of people or one demographic of people. And you can't tell me that my minorities on campus and my international students on campus are not being victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, but they don't know what to do because they're not being educated on who to go talk to. We need more of that on campuses as well, and in K through 12.
And that's what the evidence says something relationship model looks like.
And like I said, we talk plain. I mean, I don't go into schools and talk about, you know, religion and politics, whatever. I talk about, hey, let's know, how many of you have seen a dirty picture on a cell phone at the kindergarten level, and everyone knows raise their hand? That's what we're talking about. Right. How many of you are friends online with people you do not know, just because they look cute? Right.
Director Goodell, I want to recognize Angie Hampton. You've heard a lot of advice today about how, in particular, in Jefferson County, domestic violence correlates strongly with community violence. So Angie helped create One Place at the Shoals, their family justice center. And what they see in their community, not to speak for you, Angie, is the correlation between domestic violence and family violence. And so the DA's office, who owns their family justice center, they do a lot of cell phone investigatory technology and methods within their family justice center, which is how they identify that intersection between family violence and domestic violence. And so we're aligning kind of PSN and PSC up in the Shoals area. Please.
Well, again, I want to thank you all so very much. And these are hard topics, and we know that. And, you know, I think many times people are like, you don't want to open that Pandora's box. Because to your point, you do a training, people start disclosing, people come forward. But we don't have the luxury of saying that, right? Because what you brought up is so important. We are seeing the impact, right? Whether it's mental health or suicidal ideation, or what you mentioned about the person who started out doing well and now they're in the back with the hoodie and not trying anymore and dropping out. Like, this is such crucial work for us to be proactive. I appreciate what you brought up about that collective framework, about being proactive, about taking a health approach. You know, I think oftentimes there's been a very much focus on the criminal justice system, which we want to continue to strengthen and support a survivor-centered and effective response, but that's not the only system, right? Like, at the end of the day, this is not just a public safety issue, it's a public health issue. And how are we bringing that health perspective, right, of really framing this in ways to help people, you know, be successful personally, in their families, in their communities, healthy relationships, and also realizing that we see huge ramifications when we don't. And I don't need to tell you all know also about the ACEs studies, right, the Adverse Childhood Experience studies, that demonstrate that young people who have witnessed or experienced this in the home, to your point, Jeremy, the family violence, you know, the ways in which that impacts them as well. And I'm glad you brought up that oftentimes on college campuses, you may see that students from minority communities, historically marginalized, LGBTQ+ populations, immigrant populations, many of them don't necessarily know that they can trust going forward and sharing what they've experienced and are fearful of what the ramifications might be, right? So again, sometimes we have seen some colleges that report that they have 0 cases, right? Like under the Clery Act. And someone might say, wow, that's a great campus. They're reporting 0, you know, under the Clery Act reporting. And then you see other colleges that when they're doing this work, their reports actually go up. And some people might think like, oh, well, wait a second. They're not doing good work. Their numbers are going up. And it's actually the opposite, right? Numbers go up. And more people report when they feel trust, when they know that there's a pathway to receiving the kind of support and services they need, when they hear from other students, like, I came forward and I started helping. Because they talk, right? We know students all talk. If one student goes forward and the experience they have is really negative, word spreads. And so it's not just that one survivor that wasn't served. Word gets out in the community. Don't go there, don't report, don't say anything. And so again, I appreciate all that you all are doing. You all are here because you deeply care, and the role that you can play in your colleges to go back and say, how are we creating those pathways to support, to safety, to justice, to healing, and to meeting people where they're at and creating that safe space, and recognizing what a huge impact it has on the life of that individual and on their life going forward. One other quick thing I want to touch upon is the whole issue of online abuse and harassment. We know technology can be used for good, and we're all harnessing that, and certainly during the pandemic, we all recognize too how important it is to use technology, but we're also seeing the ways in which the rampant explosion of different ways that technology can also be used for harm. And we held some listening sessions with college students prior to coming to DOJ. I was at the White House Gender Policy Council. We were working on our national plan to end gender-based violence and engaging with different communities. And as the White House launched a whole initiative called the Task Force on Online Harassment and Abuse, based on so much that we're hearing, how many of us, myself included, my 3 kids remind me all the time, are not up to date on all that is happening with technology, right? And the world in which they're living and swimming in, that many of us, it's not the experience we have as young people. And the ways in which many of them are being targeted, even through video games, where adults go on there, or adults through Snapchat, all the different ways in which, and when we talk to young people through this task force that we were launching and listening sessions, many said, we had one young person who experienced horrific online harassment, abuse, and non-consensual distribution of intimate images. And I tried to go to my campus, and they said to me, oh, you're experiencing harm online? Just don't go online, stay offline, right? And they said to me, they said, you all adults talk about online and offline. They're like, to us, it's just life, like our whole life. Like that is, we shop, we communicate, we study, we work, everything exists online. And they're also experiencing deep harms and things that we're not even fully aware of. So I encourage all of us. We're all trying to come up to speed. I think now AI is a whole new world, right? The deep fakes that are being created, you all may already have seen that. There are already some high schools that it was reported in the New York Times where, before you needed very sophisticated computers to create this, now it's all these new apps coming out where they can put someone's image in, create deep fake porn, share that out to humiliate, harm, harass. And then those individuals who then feel like I can't even go to a job interview, I can't even show my face in class. And then others say, well, it's not you, it's just online, get over it. But the research is showing horrific mental health harm, physical harm, all the ways. So I think there's a lot that we need to come up to speed on and learn from young people and bring their leadership and their voices to the space. I'm happy to report that there's some new grants also that when VAWA was reauthorized in 2022, it has a new definition of technological abuse. We have a new section on cybercrimes as individuals with a focus on cyber stalking and the non-consensual distribution of intimate images. So we just rolled out 2 new solicitations. One is to train law enforcement and prosecutors and courts on all the forensics of all that. And the second one is to establish a new National Resource Center on cybercrimes against individuals. So that solicitation just came out last week. But once that's out there, we're hoping it'll be another resource too. But OVC just funded the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative to be able to expand the work they do on image-based sexual abuse. Because it's so hard for a survivor to even try to work with all these social media companies to pull down very harmful images and to get the kind of support they need to negotiate, existing laws that are not updated. So again, that's another resource for you all, Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, and this image-based abuse helpline that maybe if you all are working with these cases, they're going to be doing more trainings now that they're getting funding also. We've partnered with them, with OVC to advance that. So more to come. There's always more to come. But I think a lot of progress has been made, and you all have demonstrated that, just your presence here, the ways in which you all are, prioritizing and centering these issues, and the ways in which these partnerships and collaborations that already exist here in Birmingham are so important, but also, Jeremy, the commitment that you and others to just continuing to strengthen those collaborations. So we look forward to being of assistance in any way we can, to learning from you, to bringing your voices, forward to policymakers as well in ways that we can continue to improve and enhance these efforts. So our deepest appreciation and best wishes, and look forward to staying in touch. Thank you.
just want to thank again Dr. Jones. Thank you for being so hospitable and having us here today. Micah, thank you so much. Wes, thank you for the tech that went into today, so folks from across the state can join us. And again, this is supposed to be the beginning of the conversation and not the totality of the conversation, so I hope and I intend to re-engage you in this effort as we build more coordination and try to bring more resources to our state on this topic. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm grateful for you, and have a good afternoon.